1, 2, 3. Here we go. Live again. So we have some small tech issues. You heard it already. So, all the speakers from now on, please go on the left side. It's okay. Has nothing to do with politics. So, one more thing. Thank you one more time, Mr. Vukotic. And I just want to say one more time for all of you who haven't heard it, Mentoring Startups is the book. So you have it free, you have a QR code in front, download it, take it, read it, enjoy it. Also, the author of books that he has are related to the change, to the culture, and also the mentoring. Thanks one more time. Let's go. We need to discuss something. Are you for discussion? Ready? Yeah? Okay. Then if you're ready, I hope the Karlo is also ready. It's time to fulfill our promises. So, Invento Summit, the power of giving back, will engage technology experts, representatives and venture capital funds and successful entrepreneurs to share their experiences. Nothing is most better and insightful and it's like a treasure when you have the stories from the people who started from somewhere. And you know all of them and mistakes and good stuff from the whole beginning. So who are our guests in the first panel today? Please welcome Miss Nina Dremelj, business angels from Slovenia. Hello, wherever you want. Thanks. Aleš Pustovrh, Rouge Capital. Here is with us. Hello, glad to have you here. Tracy Powell, Ignite Technology and Innovation, is also with us. Hello. And Bence, Huba, EIT Urban Mobility. One mic is here, and who will discuss with them? Mr. Karlo. Karlo is here, ready to start. Okay, ready, steady, go. One mic is for you also. Enjoy, you have a little bit more than 1 hour on disposal, so if you have any questions, on the end we have Q&A section, so be ready, write it down in notes. Enjoy. One mic for them. Here, on the way. Here we are.
Yeah, so let's get comfortable. We'll be here for quite a while. So I'd like to introduce a little bit more the guests today. And I also like order, so we will do it in a certain order. We will start from the one that traveled the longest to get here. So Tracy Powell is a technology entrepreneur, real estate developer and investor with 30 years of business experience. He invested the first part of his business career in investments working for investment firms such as First National Bank of Chicago. As a real estate developer and investor, he specialized in urban real estate development, and he's developed also 100 units of affordable market rate and elderly housing. He's also experienced with grants, non-profits, and also runs his own business. And now I would like to ask you to buy me some time to further introduce yourself, to say a few more words while I go over my cheat sheets for the next panels.
Yeah, we'll buy you a little time. Good work there. So anyway, thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Tracy Powell. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I run an organization. It's a not-for-profit called Ignite Technology and Innovation. And just like Karlo said, I've been in business for a little bit over 30 years. Started off as an investment banker. Worked for big firms like Merrill Lynch, Shearson Lehman, you name it, made my run through that. And really that's where I cut my teeth in investments, although it wasn't a big startup industry. When I started, we were more like raising funds for your blue chip kind of companies and firms and doing, security placements, doing that. But I just kind of learned and understood some of the things that were necessary to raise funds and money. Took that information and then got into real estate and built thousands of affordable housing units in Chicago. Around 2007 and 8, if you guys are around, we had this big thing called a recession that put most real estate people out of business and it caused major issues for developers as well. And that's when we started to talk about where should we pivot, and technology was rising, and we started to say, hey, maybe we should be looking at how do we create ecosystems for investors and for startups, because that was what was on the horizon. So that kind of brings us to where we are today.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, Bence. Bence is a civil, he came from Budapest, by the way, so that's not that far, but thank you for coming. He's a civil engineer with over 20 years of experience with EU funds, environmental protection and innovation in various roles, like Vice President of EU Fund Management in Hungary, Head of different funds, Secretary of State, Chairman, Vice Chancellor, CEO, SB member, researcher. Currently he is RIS Manager at EIT Urban Mobility. So I would kindly ask you to also buy me some time for the next presenter.
Thank you very much. Maybe I should introduce myself, that I'm coming from Barcelona, because our HQ is in Barcelona and the official seat is in Barcelona. So it's maybe more far away. I cannot compete with you, of course. But I was coming from Hungary, because we are having also different offices in Budapest and in other European countries. So we are trying to cover whole Europe. And what we are doing, we are trying to connect the knowledge triangle. And as Karlo said, so I was working on different sides of the knowledge triangle by different companies, by running a large university or European funds in a amount of 30 billion euro. So we learned a lot how to connect these different sides of the knowledge triangle. And now we are having a new challenge to connect them also with the cities, because by urban mobility, we would like to connect also the cities with this supportive community which is working on innovations. And I'm not just representing now here EIT Urban Mobility, but you may know that EIT is the European Innovation Technology Office, which is a European agency in Budapest, and they are also setting up different KICs. KICs are the knowledge and innovation communities, so the partners who are working together on different innovations. Now we are having by EIT Urban Mobility 300 companies, more large companies, but also we are looking for startups. But there's EIT Health, EIT Food, EIT Raw Materials, EIT InnoEnergy, EIT Digital, EIT Climate, and now very new EIT Culture KIC has been set up. So we are having a big network, and we would like to connect this network, and we would like to support innovation by that. Thank you.
Thank you. So a lot of new terminology. RIS, KIC, KICS. There will be a quiz on this later, so keep up. So next is Aleš. He's experienced in strategic thinking, market research, and startup business development in Slovenia and Eastern Europe. Right? Assistant professor with PhD at Faculty of Economics, University of Ljubljana. Co-founder and program manager at ABC Accelerator. He also owns a market research company that is primarily involved in research and consulting to entrepreneurs, as well as collaboration with entrepreneurship support institutions.
So basically I'm a teacher, but not as good as George Vukotic there. But I'm a teacher who also does stuff with companies and especially startups. I've set up 5 companies myself. 4 of them are still alive, 1 of them barely. And since I've been working in this field, I've noticed that actually startup ecosystems in this region are really underdeveloped. So we started working with startups more than 10 years ago. We've started investing into startups several years ago, and now we are, I think, the biggest early stage venture capital fund in the region. We've made 180 investments in Croatia in the last 3.5 years, and hope to do many more in the future.
Thank you. You have answered a couple of my questions for the later stage of this panel. And finally, Nina, passionate about startups, keen about entrepreneurship, and ecstatic about creating stories together. She is the president of Business Angels of Slovenia since January 2021. Over the last 5 years, she has invested in more than 16 startups, both Slovenian and foreign, and helped close more than 40 additional investments worth more than 40 million. So it's all about number 40 and maybe 50. We'll hear about it later, right?
Yeah, thank you, and also thank you for inviting me here. By the way, to refer to Aleš, he's too modest. It's a Rouge Capital, the biggest fund, because you forgot to mention it. But yes, I'm Nina. I'm actually coming from Slovenia. I'm entrepreneur by heart. Nevertheless, my career started at Ministry of Foreign Affairs. No offense, but I was so bored that I escaped from there. So after less than 1 year, I decided to start my entrepreneurial path. I built many companies, some of them successful, some of them not so successful. I went from liquidation to exit, which was successful. So I've been there, done that, all of the ways of entrepreneurship. And in the end of 2015, after a lot of my entrepreneurial experience and different companies that were done in Slovenia and also abroad, I joined Business Angels of Slovenia at that time as part of internal team, built a successful story within 2 years, and then I went in Switzerland with a private seed fund, actually, that was privately owned. I made my portfolio there. I was successful. I actually pretty much exit majority of it. And then I came back to Slovenia. I started my Alita Capital private investment vehicle and built in between, when I took over the Business Angels, first angel fund in Slovenia that is headquartered in Slovenia, which is, maybe you are not aware, but huge success because of all the legislation and obstacles that are currently present in Slovenia, but also in CE region. And for the last 3 years, actually my heart belongs to Vesna Capital, that is first deep tech fund that will cover Slovenia and Croatia primarily, and then also be focusing on CE region with small part of our focus. And I have today my team here, so we will tell more in next steps. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introductions. So I don't want to be impolite. I will say a few words about myself as well. My name is Karlo, and I'm a relatively new member of Invento Capital Partners. I've been here for 5 months now. I'm involved in the innovation sector for 15 years. So we in Invento Capital Partners cover most of the fields directly or indirectly that were mentioned here. I will say a few words in the panel. So there will be some product placement, some service placement, if you will. But I will be really subtle about it, so I don't know, it will be hardly noticeable, but it will stay in your subconscious. So yeah, the structure of the panel, we haven't covered that yet. I'm an engineer, so I like structure. So we are pretty much done with the first part. We call it part 1. We will have additional 3 parts, but we will also be interrupted by 3 short talks. So I think it's time to have the first talk by Nikola Komes. He will say a few words about his startup and how he bootstrapped it and how he got some investments. I think he'll do.
Thank you, Karlo. Okay. When Karlo reached out about 2 months ago with this topic, the power of investments, I was very pleased because on the first sight it seems like quite an easy topic. Everything is easier when you have cash. Somebody disagree? No? Okay then. Well, it's not that simple. So, thank you. I'm the founder of InsiderCX, and what we do is we are a software that is used by private healthcare providers to survey their patients and elevate their quality. But we didn't start like this. We started as a hardware startup doing something for retail. And today I will share with you what the power of investment means to me and what we got besides cash. So the first thing is pivoting. And that's something that's really been a big part of our path up until now. So we started the business in the fall of 2020, mid-pandemic. So we were very optimistic about it. And once we got some traction, we started to look for investments. And basically what we told our investors, because we were very early stage, give us some cash and knowledge to test out a few ideas. Maybe we will succeed, maybe we will not. And in the pivoting, I think trust and support of the investors is an integral part of that. Because as George said, and we've have heard it before today, failure is success. And you need somebody on board who will guide you through these failures. And for us, the failures have been doing hardware in retail, doing software in retail, doing software in e-commerce, doing software in hospitality until we got to the private healthcare. But up until then, we needed to pivot a bit again. So the next part is emotional attachment, which I also learned is not so good when running a startup. So this is also where my investors kicked in. What happens a lot to founders and engineers, you build a cool product, you build something, like you have a hammer and you start to see nails all around. Everything's a nail when you have that hammer. And also you get really emotionally attached to it. I have this good product, why don't you use it? You think towards your clients. And this emotional attachment can drag you. It can really drag you, especially, as I said, engineers, they build something. And if you want to succeed as an early stage company as we are and pivot a lot, you need to be able to disconnect yourself from something that you have been working really hard for days, weeks, months, and switch to the next thing if it isn't working. And that's why this emotional attachment or detachment is important for me. And the last thing, I like to think about the investment as the investor relations as a mix of a sales funnel and dating. So basically you start with a lot of, is there a pointer? No. You start with a lot of VCs, investors that could be a good fit. And then you screen them, they screen you. And then you go on a first date. Then you go on a second date. And then basically you sign something and go into a very, very long-term relationship. And I think this mindset helped me basically filter out who do I want to work with, what kind of support I will get. Will this dating partner of mine, will he or she or it stay with me in my hard times, or will they just give me a bunch of cash and then leave me when I'm not doing well? I mean, not financially, but in any type of success metric. So I think we've kind of found our spouse material for the type of investors that we want to be working with. But it took a lot of pivoting, a lot of emotional detachment, and I think that's it from my end.
Thank you very much, Nikola. Do you have any questions for the panelists? Nikola. Do you have any questions for the panelists?
For the panelists?
I told you to prepare questions. You know.
Yeah. That was very early today. 5:45. I read the message, sorry.
No, that's when you were preparing your presentation.
Yes,
so.
buy me some time now until I... Yeah, no, I think it's always interesting to hear this part of the pivoting, which when I again maybe think of George's presentation, you had these two guys and then you had these two doctors who are experts in their topic, and they have been working in that topic for 20 years. So do you think, is this an advantage or a disadvantage that someone is very, very specialized in a topic or field? And what's your take on that could basically hinder them from pivoting and doing something else out of their domain?
Well thought of, yeah. Improvise.
Thank you for the time.
Was that a question or? Okay. No. Was it?
Yeah, was it?
Who is it for?
Aleš.
Who would like? Yeah. Okay.
Hey, thanks, Nikola. Thanks for the great question. Well, what we do, first of all, I think it is important to emphasize, we usually invest into teams, so people are more important than their actual idea. Why? Because all the ideas change. I mean, the pivoting you mentioned is absolutely normal and even desired. So to answer your question, a lot of the people who have been studying one field of expertise for 20 years, they are certain they know everything in that field and they don't have to change anything. So the problem there would be, would be this kind of narrow thinking. So if we would detect that that would be a problem, we would probably not make an investment there. On the other hand, if they have really state-of-the-art expertise and they are open to learn more and potentially pivot, that is a killer combination right there. So yes, we would invest, and no, we would not invest.
Can I just add one counter question? How does this work for you as a professor? Because as a professor, you need to be an expert in a relatively narrow field of science.
Oh, that's easy. I have students. I can tell them to do whatever I want to.
That's the essence of being the professor, right? So well done thinking of that questions. I think it illustrates how entrepreneurs think on their feet, and that's what they need to do, right? So we are now moving into part 2, that's what we call it, this part of the session. And I think we're learning a lot already from entrepreneurs and from the panelists as well. But like Dalibor said in the introduction, we also need to have some fun, right? So I think we should have some fun, and who better to have fun with than with our guests from Chicago. So let's try to do it in I don't know, an interesting way, I hope so. I will just pronounce one last name, typical maybe for Slovenia. Maybe it's typical. It's Žnidaršič. Is it typical for Slovenia? So I would like to ask Tracy to try to pronounce that last name.
All right, say it one more time.
Žnidaršič.
Isnirovic. Hey, I'm a tennis fan. I follow Croatian tennis players.
So there is a reason why I'm asking this question, because 15 years ago when I started doing the work that I do today, I came across a term, entrepreneurship. And it was really hard to pronounce for us here. So what do? I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business. That's the easier way to say it, yeah. So this is just the introduction to some definitions. I would like us to define some terms, because when I talked yesterday to some of the people here, they are not all from this field of work, they are not all from this sector. So maybe defining some general terms could be nice, educational, and also fun. So we can start with entrepreneurial ecosystem. We heard a little bit about it, but Tracy, could you please say what it means to you?
Yes, so it's kind of not fair because that's really what I do. I build ecosystems. Really, for what it means to me is like creating first a physical space. And I know that's been challenging in our post-pandemic times, but it doesn't change whether it's physical or whether it's an online community, but it's a space that contains resources. And those resources are something that our entrepreneurs can tap, whether it be financing, mentorship, technical development. A great space is one where you can go in with an idea and meet other people that may have similar ideas or that can help you develop your idea. And so to me, that's really what makes a good ecosystem.
So we at Invento team work as an accelerator. We also work like incubational programs and stuff like that. So that's what we also do, just so you know. It's subtle. Next, we hear a lot about unicorns, right? So Aleš, what are unicorns?
So that one is also easy. All of our companies that we have invested into will be unicorns.
No, those are soonicorns. But
Correct,
thank
correct.
you. Potential soonicorns, so I would say. So yeah, billions. Anyone hear of the term tres comas? Raise of hands. Silicon Valley. Okay, good. Next, Deep tech. Deep tech is a buzzword we hear so much about these days. I don't know if you heard about it, but you will hear about it definitely. So what is deep tech?
Quite complicated.
I know.
But actually deep tech is everything that is not just upgraded software or business model or some kind of app. Meaning that is usually supported or it's originating from scientific research, any kind of from public or private organizations or development departments. This usually is a deep tech, so it needs to be supported with really huge innovation behind.
So now is the opportunity for you to be subtle about the fund that is going to happen, the Vesna Capital Fund. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I can say a few words. So actually, in this year is Vesna Capital or Vesna Fund, Deep Tech Fund, first Slovenian/Croatian or Croatian/Slovenian fund will be established. It's going to be for deep tech cases, but this is not so important as it is important that we will also invest in really early stages. So meaning that if some of you is familiar with technology readiness stages, they're from 1 to 9, meaning 1 to 3 is pretty much just idea, 3 to 4 is lab prototype, 5 to 6 is industrial prototype, and 7 or let's say 7, 8, 9, it's going to the market with research or with innovation. So it's much harder work than just classical upgrade of a business model. So this fund will support already this lab prototype stage, which is quite promising for all the researchers and people who are in development companies and especially public research institutions, because this is something that is really needed from perspective of future development of not just countries but society. We showed that with vaccine that we actually were able to create within 1 year, before it took us 20 years when Corona came. So it can be done, and this is actually really great opportunity. Everything within Slovenia, Croatia, especially with all the patents, know-how, everything industrial know-how is untapped. So it's really not used. Now is is a chance to do the next step. So to start commercializing this knowledge. And this is all actually everything that Vesna is about, in a nutshell.
Well, it doesn't sound all that complicated to me.
No, it's not.
And the reason is because we at Invento Capital Partners are already cooperating with Vesna Fund, and we've been doing some scouting, and everybody that's here is actually pitching for the VC. You already know that you are next. So, urban mobility. Urban mobility may sound self-explanatory, but it actually isn't. It's a wide field. It's a wide playground. Yes. You are a key player, so could you please explain?
Yes. To be honest, I was joining, we were establishing 4 years before EIT Urban Mobility. I was coming from the electric mobility field, so at that time I was chair of the European electric mobility, and for me, okay, I'm joining urban mobility because we are changing the cars to electric, and it was quite obvious. But at that time, we have had, I think, around 100 partners, and I started to discuss with partners, and I realized that urban mobility means for everybody very much different things. And in the summary, we agreed that urban mobility is more a kind of living in the cities and how we should live and how we should move or how we should not move, because not just the moving, but the not moving is connected also to mobility. So the best, by energy efficiency, we said always that the best energy is what you are not using. But the same goes also for mobility, that maybe the best mobility is which is not made because it's not needed. So we are looking for new ways, and of course we understand urban mobility, that also the structuring of the cities and how we are organizing our cities and how we are managing our traffic and all the things are connected to urban mobility. And we are having also a field which is very interesting, and maybe it's very interesting also for you, that if you are not using, now you are using, I don't know, more than 60, 70%, depending on the city, of your public places for parking and for roads, for traffic. But if you are not using that spaces for that goal, you are having a lot of new spaces which you can utilize on other ways. And it means that you are having a lot of space for social interaction, which is changing all the city. So now in the big cities, you are not knowing your neighbor because you are just running through and you are having not very much connection. But if you are changing and on the road is instead of the road, there is a place where children are playing and where you are going down and having a conversation or maybe a dinner with your neighbors, your feeling of the city will completely change. So I think that urban mobility is much more than mobility itself, for me.
Okay, thank you. So we also support startups from urban mobility sectors, providing mentoring, access to grant, and similar services. We will be talking about grants, how to get to cash, investments, and structures of investments. But to serve as an introduction to this part, I would like to ask Robert Ilijaš for his short talk. And hopefully he's prepared a few questions or answers. Yep.
Thank you. And the clicker.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi again. So I'm Robert. I'm the CEO of Identyum. We are a RegTech startup trying to do the simple thing of changing the society. What we want to do is to make everybody's privacy matter, and for you, each and every one of you, to be able to control your identity in a digital world and be sure that nobody is misusing it, like everybody is misusing it these days. So not a simple task. Karlo asked me to make some sort of presentation about our path to where we are now, and I did a couple of slides to just, for you to get a feel of how this went in the past. Yeah, I don't think. So the path stops at the start.
Don't worry, they will help you out.
Yeah, I actually know it by heart because that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, so. Okay, until the guys figure it out, if they do, it doesn't really matter. So, we started about 5 years ago, and just like every startup, we needed cash. It was me and the two other guys. Let's see if it works now. Okay, great. It works. So we started about 5 years ago, just like everybody else. We needed, cash because money was running out. We started calling some guys. My phone book doesn't have a lot of rich people in it, so we, tried to figure out who we know. This was the time of some really weird meetings and weird conversations behind some big mahogany tables where some people had no idea what we were talking about. By the way, fun thing, Google, if there are some startups here, Google the guy that you're having a meeting with. After a meeting with a guy, some of my friends asked me, Robert, do you know who this guy was that you had a meeting with? And I was like, no, somebody told me that I should meet him. He has a lot of money. And they said, yeah, but do you know what happened in the past? And I was like, no. And then I Googled, and there was like some sort of shootout in capital of Zagreb, and he was shot to his knees. So not the kind of people you want to, get money from. I guess. So obviously that didn't happen. We of course, we talked to a couple of serious companies. We all come from, me and my co-founders, we come from financial sector. We know some serious people in IT industry. We had some talks with some mainstream companies. And we had an ongoing conversation with one of those companies, which is really strong in the financial sector in Croatia, in the region actually. We asked, back then we were quite, I mean, we are still, but back there we were really modest. We needed 300,000 euros, and we were willing to give 25% of the company because we were really unstable and we needed the cash. They basically offered 500, but they wanted 80%. So basically they wanted to buy it, and they wanted to buy us because they wanted the people and they wanted the brains to do the coding for their projects, and they didn't actually believe in us. So we said, thank you, but no thank you. It's really, really, you know, thank you very much for believing in our brains at least, but you're obviously not believing in our product. So that didn't happen, and you know, we continued the search. The money was running out. We spent pretty much all of our savings. So that lasted for about a year. You know, we were super nervous, and we were, you know, doing all kinds of creative things to, you know, pay the optimal taxes. And then after about a year, we again had another opportunity. So we were asking for 300,000 euros. Then we were asking for 10% of equity because we obviously survived, and there was some traction starting to happen, market traction. So we valued ourselves at about 3 million. So we got a bid that was not bad, you know, it was actually pretty close. We got a bid for 300,000 for 15% of equity, and it was really nice from the people that we liked, and they liked us, and all of that made sense. However, at the same time, in parallel, we applied for an EU grant, right? And I was kind of, you know, sitting on two chairs, seeing which one will happen first. And the EU grant happened, so that gave us 1 million euros, and for no equity. Yeah, one of my very good colleagues I told her, this is free money. And she said, Robert, you cannot say that this is free money. It's not free money because it's from EU, and you will need to show something for it. But yeah, I will have to show what I will have to show anyway for myself, because that's what we are doing. So it is free money. Okay, but don't say to EU consultants that it's free money. But it's free money. So that's been holding us for quite a long time, obviously. And then again, we got one smaller EU grant because it's actually a very creative and innovative product. So this was another 200K, and that's been holding us up until now. So now, at the start of the year, this year, we've got another small one that will hold us for 2023. The biggest problem with EU grant money is you have to be super, super smart about it, because you don't want to turn your company into a research center. You need to have a very strong focus on product market fit, on your sales, and on selling your product. So that's what we've been like really super stressed about, so that we don't turn ourselves into a laboratory, and so that we don't come dependent on the EU money. We have to grow our sales. We have to have a product that makes sense. So anyway, it will hold us for this year, and then I don't know, that's why I'm here. So basically, yeah, there are obviously a couple of options. EU grant, I don't think that's an optimal option anymore, honestly. Either maybe a bank loan as some sort of bridge for if the negotiations take too long, or maybe a VC, which we have some experience talking with, but we have stopped 2 years ago, and now we have to restart everything, prepare our materials, or maybe private equity. We will probably shoot in every direction and see if it sticks anywhere and if it makes sense for us. And yeah, that's pretty much it where we are now.
So thank you very much for this presentation. This serves as a good introduction to the next part of our panel, which is how to fund your company.
So I don't have to ask any provocative questions.
You don't have to do it. I'm glad you're prepared, but you don't have to do it. Only the ones that are not prepared had to do it. Yeah, just to say, I've worked with a lot of innovative companies in my time, in different roles. And I've seen a lot of companies fail because of too many EU grants. This is an example, well, so far, they haven't failed yet, and I'm glad that you said that the next EU grant is not a good idea, and I agree with that. So I would like to ask the panelists here, what do you think is the best way, like the combination of how to fund your own company? Is it like a combination of grants? You're all experienced with grants and bootstrapping and how to fund your company. Tracy, what would you say is the best combination?
Yeah, no, I think it's good to get grants, but I'm in agreement. At some point, and I'm going to just kind of lay it in layman's terms, you have to put on your big boy pants. At some point, I think you've got to take your product, get it to an iteration where you can get it into the market and really start to test the viability of it. I mean, I've seen too many people going from pitch contests to grants to so on. So it's like they're in this perpetual grant raising money role and just never ever getting out here to see if that product or service can stand on its own. So I just really think, sure, I really am a proponent of bootstrapping. I mean, I just feel like, yeah, some people are lucky enough not to, but I think some of the most successful companies are ones that bootstrap. I think kind of like when you put your own money in, if you raise your own hard money, you're able to reiterate and get to the proper product faster versus if somebody gave me $1 million and then I play around and then I get another $1 million. And so I just really feel like there should be a nice and normally I feel like a grant or some funding should come after we see some success based on what I did or what I raised. So that's just kind of my theory of how I look for companies and how we determine who has the viability and who doesn't have it.
Okay, thank you for your opinion. So Bence, you're standing pretty much on the front line of EU money. We heard about it being called free money. I'm going to try to sound like an American now and say it ain't free no more. And it's actually, I don't know, a combination of good and bad news for us that deal with EU projects. It was free, it was easy to access, but now actually we need to find some private money to combine it with public money. And the reason I think it's good is because it adds value. Because if you raise private money, if somebody gives you money to fund your projects, it means that you actually are doing something good, that they believe in you. So I think that's a good way, and we have a task ahead of us to do that in the project that we run together. So what are your thoughts regarding this?
Yes, so in my time working with the EU funding, I have seen some thousands of projects and EU-funded projects. And I have had the impression that it's maybe nice to have this free money, but it not educating you for efficiency and maybe not you are not following anymore your own goals. But now we are doing something different because we are called EIT Urban Mobility, and all the other knowledge and innovation communities are having EIT in the name. But it means we are companies. We are independent companies. We are not owned by the EU. We are having our shareholders, our partners, which are mostly big cities and big companies and some smaller companies and also research institutions and universities. And we are forced to be financial sustainability. So we are kind of venture capitalists. But we are, let's say, the nice venture capitalists because we are more focusing on the impact. So we don't have to have very hard conditions. We are investing, but we are, for example, very, very happy if we are having co-investors. And because of that, now we are setting up an investment fund which is led by us. And we are not just using the European money we are getting for that, but we are using also the fund money, which is from private investors. And for us, the big success is that if we are having some projects, we are investing in, let's say, some 100,000 euro, 100, 200,000 euro for very, very small equity. And after that, based on our investment, there are private investments coming, which are much higher, maybe 1, 2, or some million euros. And we are saying, okay, our decision is justified, and of course, we are staying with the startups, and we are helping them to be in that network and to be trusted by our community. So it's something in between. So not EU money and not VC, but in between, and we are hoping that we can help to be more successful.
Thank you for making this nice transition into nice venture capitalists. So yeah, we are here a combination of Slovenia and Croatia. The separation is just, it's not on purpose. But we are cooperating more and more. Slovenia and Croatia are cooperating more and more. I'm happy about it. So it just so happened that we are matched with shoes. I don't know if you noticed. Yeah, it's a startup style. So what are your thoughts regarding this, on how to fund the company?
Yeah, I was waiting to be the not nice VC. And actually, I think that a lot of people don't realize, but venture capital is usually not your first source of financing. In most cases, venture capital will not invest into companies that don't have any revenue. So most of the startups come to develop, at least in this region, they come to venture capital funds to raise money to develop the product. And that's actually, we are usually the wrong destination for that. And actually, Vesna might be an example, might be the first case of a fund where you can invest into companies that don't have revenue yet, but even in our case, in most cases, we can only make small ticket investments if you don't have revenue. So what do you do? In more developed ecosystems, and I'm sure Chicago will be an example of that, you go to business angels. And those are the investment class that will be able to invest even in your pre-revenue phase. But in Croatia, Slovenia, in this region, there are not enough business angels. Okay? So what do? First thing, you go for grants. That's the alternative for business angels. Second thing, what you do is you go on Kickstarter. Slovenia per capita is raising the most money on Kickstarter in the world. Croatia is following closely behind. Blockchain and crypto and ICOs and all these alternatives, we've been very successful in this region. Not because we are so good, but because these are the alternatives, because business angels are missing. So I would like to, give a message out to everybody here. You can actually do, and you know people who can do investments. And business angels are missing in Croatia, and they're missing in Slovenia, and they're missing all over Central and Eastern Europe. And, they don't have to be extremely rich people. What we've done, and what I've done, is I've invented 20 friends that I know can afford to invest 10,000 euros each. And we are making investments, and we are collaborating with Nina and everybody else. And 10,000 euros, there are many people who have created their own companies who can return this money in the form of investment as a business angel. Because this is the one area that is the most missing in the whole region.
Yeah, when I look back 10, 15 years ago, the ecosystem wasn't that developed, but I think we've come a long way. But what would you say is lacking in the ecosystem now? Aleš talked about business angels. In my opinion, it's a good thing that things like venture builders are happening now. We have a few venture builders. That was something that could add value. What would you say is some key component that would be nice to have?
If I refer to my colleagues, I believe that C region has a really untapped potential on the side of the startups, but also startups are not hungry enough. This is first problem that we are observing. So you need to be hungry, otherwise nobody will invest in you. So all depends about the vision. That's also related to the funding that you're looking for. So in some cases, also startups decide not to get public funding with reason. Because you, at some point, need to do your business, not to deal with all the bureaucracy, everything. So maybe money is not so much worth it at that point as you can bring a benefit out from the market. The next stage are business angels. Yes, we're lacking of business angels, but it's not a problem. Oh, sorry. It's not problem, sorry. With business angels as such, it's more problem, or money, it's more problem in mentality. So this region is having one huge problem, which is if I have a money, like that. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. I'm super connected with Mike. It's not about money as such and that people would not love to invest. First of all, there's a lack of knowledge how to do investments, and we're really trying to empower this issue. And second one is that in our region, we do envy a success. And this is a huge problem. We're not happy for people who succeed. We would love to, we do envy them. And this is our main problem, not Slovenia, Croatia, region. So we need to change a mindset, and then the wheel will start rolling with all the investments, and more angels will come, more angels will also invest, because in the end, the statistics shows that Slovenia/Croatia, or let's say region, but I can primarily say for Slovenia because I have numbers, our return multiples on cases are much, much higher than EU level. And this shows something that we know how to invest, that we know how to do it, and that we are really hands-on. And we also invest higher tickets. Okay, let's change them. So it's a problem of a culture, of a mindset, and on the other side, it's also that the ecosystem needs to be connected to this. My observation, but this is my personal opinion for sure, is that ecosystem is not working closely together. Each of us is separately doing something, but the power is in collaboration. So I believe the next steps should be more empowering and changing the mindset, and next, or let's say in parallel to this, also to start more cooperating together, because if you're playing solo, you have limitations. If you're collaborating, you can really succeed.
Yeah, thank you. So the mindset change, the mindset switch, the mindset alignment, I think is really important. So you talked about Slovenian companies. I think it's a good time to introduce one Slovenian company. That would be Peter Bruner. He was also the startup coach for the startups that you will hear in the last session. So the 8 startups, he coached them. So now he will actually deliver the perfect pitch. But no pressure on you, so yeah.
Thank you. Hi all. So yes, I prepared a pitch. I know some of the startups that we did some training want to hear it, ask me about it before. I'm warning you, there is a product placement. You know, Nina mentioned hunger. I'm hungry. And it's what they say, ABC, always be closing, right? So we can talk business after this, no worries. There is a chance. Okay, so every good idea starts with a story. And my story started with buying the first apartment in the city of Ljubljana, which is the capital of Slovenia. And I decided to rent my apartment out via Airbnb. Great, right? Passive income. But, because the apartment was in an apartment building, there is really hard to store keys anywhere, right? So how to deliver the keys to the guests? Well, I have a really Balkan idea, which is, cutting corners, going to the nearest bar, leaving the keys there, make a deal with the bartender, give him some cash, and, guests will pick up the key in the bar, went to the apartment, perfect. So the guests arrived, picked up the key in the bar, went to the apartment. Great. I was on a roll. But next, guests are late. And guests are late most of the time. So sometimes they are late, so late in the middle of the night that the bar is already closed, they cannot get a key, and they cannot get into the apartment. So that means in the middle of the night, I was at that point living in the south of Slovenia, southeast, driving for 1.5 hours in the middle of the night, remember, to Ljubljana to deliver the keys. And the stress was not only mine, it was also the stress for the guests, because they had to wait for me all that time. And these are common challenges, in renting industry, key deliveries to guests, managing multiple properties, and guests are late most of the time. And most of the time, it's not even their fault. Because of the strikes, because of the traffic jams, and if they are in the air, they cannot really let you know, hey, we're going to be late for 1 hour, right? So the most important part of every business is to find the problem. And this problem needs to be identified, and it needs to be identified not by you, but by your customers. If your customers relate to that problem, you have solved the problem, and then you offer them the solution. And in this case, it's Ringo. It's a solution which digitizes doors. It's black magic? No, not really. It's really simple. So basically, we connect our device, which is an IoT device, to the lock in the apartment door, and we connect it to the intercom, and in this way, Ringo can unlock main building door and at the same time apartment door remotely by sharing a digital key, which looks like this. A really simple image, which is basically a link, a connection, and one trick, there is no app necessary. Because we want to provide the perfect experience, and experience is no login, no registration, no extra work when you are in front of the building. It's like taking the key out of your pocket and unlock the door. In our case, you take the phone, click, and unlock the door. Really simple. So, also here, the experience which you sell to your potential buyers needs to be seamless as much as possible. So in our case, then guests, they can arrive anytime at their privacy. They can self check in. Like anytime. It can be a celebrity. Nobody can bother them, right? And the most important part, no stress, right? Because they are on vacation. And for the host, me, no presence required. I don't have to drive in the middle of the night. It saves me a lot of time, costs, and of course, also stress. So, what do we do when we offer the solution? We need to compare it with the competition, right? Why? Because you don't just go online, let's say some website, and you want to buy a new TV and you just buy a new TV. It doesn't work like that, right? You find multiple TVs, multiple brands, you compare them, you compare the quality of sound, image, everything. And this is not enough. You compare reviews as well, and this is also not enough. You go for a coffee with a friend and you ask them, hey, you have Sony, how satisfied are you with the Sony? This is the whole sales process, right? So this is why in business it's always important to research your competition. Again, product placement, of course we have competition. It's smart locks on one side, which are really simple to use, but limited in options. And on the other side, we have access control systems, which are advanced system, really complex to use, high price. So what do? We combine both of them, and we call it user-grade access control. This is what Ringo does. Basically, we cover all the fields which our competition doesn't, right? Our advantage over the competition. Okay, so I was talking just about doors, right? Apartment doors. But Ringo can do much more, right? We can open gates, building doors, call elevators, basically you name it, because the controller can control electrical stuff. Anything can happen. But the most important part is that you know your business, your vertical, where are your low-hanging fruits, which are the easiest to tear down, and you should focus on that, not to sell to the whole market, right? So we focused on tourism, which is a huge market, 4.2 trillion euros, and in the last 10 years, let's skip Corona because tourism is now back on its feet, grew by 41%. That's huge. That's huge, right? And now talking just Airbnb tourism, we have 7.7 million Airbnb hosts. And just to give you a really good example, Paris has 45,000 Airbnb hosts, which represents 140,000 listings alone. In Slovenia, we have around 2,000. So this is just Paris. All right, so now, business model, how do you make money? Really important, right? In the beginning, we start selling our device, our IoT device, our service. We thought that we're going to sell it online. Huge mistake. We still have all the back channels not working. And we sold devices which also didn't work for us. So we introduced subscription. Can you imagine you paying subscription for a lock? Would you? Probably not, right? But if I solve your problem, you would, right? So, really important. Solving the problem for a client, creating less steps for a client, and they will pay subscription for a lock. Which, my friends, if you ask them, who is paying subscription for a lock? Come on. Right? Okay. So, Traction. Are we successful? Yes. Right now we are opening 8,000 doors a month. And we are 2.5 years old only. And we started in 2020 during Corona. So, yeah. We have 0% churn, which means that every customer who started using Ringo didn't quit. We still have all the customers since the beginning. Not even one customer left us. And we made a bunch of partners on the way, which we are really proud of, and we do business together. The plan is now to attack DACH region. So, again, you should have focus, not going all across Europe or all across the world. Why DACH region? Because they speak the same language, same culture, We can actually enter Austria and we can go to Switzerland and up to the north of Germany with the same strategy, almost the same strategy, right? Okay, our aim in the finale is going to be USA. Of course, the most Airbnbs in one place. Of course, investors say, okay, you are a hardware startup. What about scaling? Yes, hardware scaling is a problem, but not if you have a really good strategy and a plan. So, in our case, we need to be scaling sales, with a lot of integration partners, and we found a way how to scale it even better. We're gonna start working with door producers, we already did, which are implementing our IT devices in the doors, so creating first smart doors, right? Which is a next logical step, because we have smart buildings, smart windows, smart lights, smart heating, smart ventilations, whatever you name it. Why not smart door? That is the next step. And of course we introduced do-it-yourself, which are meant for tech professionals or tech-savvy people. We send them the device and they play around and they install it. Okay, this is scaling sales. What about scaling product? Even more difficult, but not really, right? We developed just another development of our component, which is called PCB. We actually started printing wires into our product, which makes the production faster and less costly. We work really a lot on UX and remote support. So, like you're putting your shaver to charge, we have the same with our device, just to be launched. So, changing the devices, if they break, it's as easy as you order a new clothes, they don't fit, you send them back. Okay, and we believe that we're gonna be a SaaS company in the future, because right now, we are part hardware, part software company, but with more smart doors on the market, each door having their own operating system, we can actually connect to that operating system without our part of the hardware, and we become a SaaS company in the future. So, there is a way, you just need to find it. Of course, all that wouldn't be possible without a great team, and like you mentioned, teams are really important, right? And they represent the business. They are the business, they are the product, right? Because without the team, all that I just said is just information. Without those people, if they don't deliver it, it's just information and nothing happens. So team is the most important part that you should be proud of. And for the end, digitalization is happening everywhere. If you think about it, Uber, calling a cab, public transport, buying a ticket, we do everything with the phone. BMW is now introducing the first digital key with Apple. You basically come to your car, you don't do anything, you just have your own phone and the car unlocks and you go, right? It's happening everywhere. So we're going to be the one who will do it for tourism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter, for a great presentation. And thank you for training our startups as well. And congratulations on this hairstyle. It's much better than the one in the photo. Yeah. So now we'll get to the last part of the session, part of the panel. We have 15 minutes left. And I decided to use these 15 minutes to talk about my unfulfilled ambitions. I always had an ambition to be a rock star, and that would allow me to kind of get off the stage and enter the audience and move between the audience. So that's what I'm going to do now. But I'm going to be really careful with the floor so that I don't fall off. Actually, we are going into Q&A. So this is the opportunity for you to ask questions. So by raising your hand to ask the questions, also the panelists, feel free to ask questions to the audience if you have any questions. So I hope there will be a lot of questions from the audience. So who wants to ask the question to our panelists? Here we go. Okay.
Thank you.
I wanted to move through the audience, but you know.
Thank you so much. So my question is, you said that people are more important even than capital. I took a note. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And what can we do as investors, as entrepreneurs, as startup owners to nurture our human capital, to make sure that we're investing into it properly? I would love to hear your feedback.
Is the question directed to someone in particular?
The question, thank you so much. The question, which is basically for everyone, but I was mostly interested in hearing from Tracy because he is a father of the ecosystem in Chicago and the movements, and I see the affordable housing project, which I'm thoroughly fascinated by. So, yeah.
I also have an opinion on this, but let's hear yours.
All right. No, thank you. No, that's a great question. And I mean, as an investor myself, but also having my own startups and being in business, it's absolutely probably the most important thing. I know people always like to look at dollars and dollar figures, but really when I'm looking at a potential investment, like I'm really trying to bond with a human. You know, because really I can guarantee you this. Now there may be some quote unquote unicorns that have succeeded financially without not having a good personal relationship with investors, but I guarantee you that the most successful investments and companies have great relationships with their investors. And so really it becomes a marriage. The first gentleman, I mean, when he laid it out, like literally you become married to an idea and you have to manage that idea just like you would manage a relationship. The relationship changes. If you want the relationship to survive, you have to change. And you really have to look at how you nurture your initial relationships to determine how far you go. I never would fund an idea. I really don't. Like, there are tons of ideas and everybody has sometimes the same idea. Investors really fund people. And so really, yes, the relationships are super important.
We have another question. Is that what you're showing me? Oh, yeah, of course.
If I may add to Tracy's answer, for the startups, it's really simple, and also for investors. Imagine if you have startup in front of you, and it's me again, and you sit together in a car and drive towards the Paris. It will take you 14 hours of drive. If you will kill each other within 2 kilometers, you will never invest. If you find this trip as a pleasure, it's the right team to invest in. It's really simple as that. You get married. So the same like you don't make friendships with people you don't like, it's the same with investing, because in the end, many things can go well. Then it's fine, but when it goes wrong, you need to find the solutions, and then it's a common work you're doing together with investor, because investor becomes the part of your team as a shareholder, not being on the ground daily. But you are sharing the problem, the concerns, everything with investor who invested in you. So it's not an easy job. How you nurture it, I would say that for me, do not sell, present to me, because usually people when they're selling, they are telling what they want to hear. I do not want to hear what you believe I want to hear. I want to hear what you have to say to me. So present yourself and then report to me whatever goes wrong. Tell me immediately. Whatever is kind of concern, tell me immediately, because then we can sit down and find a solution together. So it's about presenting and not hiding.
I believe we have more questions, yeah.
Yes, we do. I thank you so much. Just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ksenia Kos, and I'm a physician, Croatian physician, but I live in practice in the United States, and I've been living there for the past 30 years. Just happened to be on vacation, but not only vacation, but also because I'm starting my new business, which is not a business exactly. It's a non-profit organization, which is called Croatian American Medical Alumni. And this is an association of Croatian physicians who work in practice in the United States. We are not for profit organization. So just to let you all know, if you know any physicians who work and live in the United States or who have been in the United States and returned back to Croatia, to look us up. It's cromedusa.org. So that's just a little introduction about me. I'm otherwise a neurologist in St. Louis, Missouri. But I have a question, because this is a wonderful meeting, a wonderful forum. But if I was one who wanted to start a business, you see, in medicine, if you want to know what's happening in the world, who is coming up with the new medication, new some sort of a procedure, or what is up and coming, as we say, down in the pipeline, where would you go as a new startup investors? Is there any conference where perhaps investors can go and see what's offered, and if they're interested in investing in you, they would then connect with you there? Or is there some sort of a website where you would go and see, okay, these are the interesting things happening, and I want to invest into this. These are new and upcoming businesses, and I kind of would like to connect with them. Where would you go? How would you find that?
Okay, first of all, we didn't have discussion earlier, so we didn't agree on this question, but I'm happy you raised this question. The answer is you go to us. You go to the Invento team, and we can hook you up with anybody. It's not a problem at all. But allow me to disagree with you on one thing. I think non-profits are a business. And also an important one, really important one, because they impact the community quite a lot. If anybody wants to add on who to turn to, or do you think it's a good idea to come to Invento first? Yeah, it's a great idea, of course. Oh, you do? You don't think it's a good idea to go? Okay. Okay.
Just really quick, I mean, I think, in Chicago, we've got like a huge conference center called McCormick, and we have tons of conferences all the time. One of the big ones, particularly in the American Medical Association just had a huge conference, maybe like 60,000 people in Chicago. A lot of times they have exhibitors that start showing products, procedures, new things, and going to these different conferences, you get a huge amount of ideas around new things that are coming out, some things that are already existing, but it gives you a lot of ideas. So that's probably one good place to do is conferences and things that come into your area as well.
Okay, we have time for one last question, and we all know that after the last question, always comes another one. So, if you have any more questions, yes, you do.
Hi. So my question is for Nina. Can you speak to any of the sort of early deal flow you're starting to see? Any common themes? What is exciting? What is that you like? What is that concerns you in terms of the challenges for the opportunities you are seeing in the pipeline?
Thank you for the question. So, as I was mentioning, these really early stage projects, they are not even the companies yet. We will support financially are actually having really basic criteria. There should be some know-how, IP, potentially already patent done or in application, or some kind of industry knowledge or know-how protection as a touch point. Then what we will ask, or we will prefer, is actually that those people who are working on this topic are ready to span out, because they need to create a company as a one, or let's say first KPI, and that if not, that at least they are willing to put this knowledge and also become a partial, let's say, smaller shareholder, and that they will help us to find a team that we can create around this IP, any kind of IP. Those are really basic stuff, and then the next steps is actually once company is created, they will transfer or they will become part of our next stage, which will actually be devoted to industrial prototype level. First touch on a market, checking out if there's opportunity to sell, how they can create its strategies, etc. It's more internal business, and then out of that they will actually, hopefully, and we fingers crossed, a lot of them will graduate, become pretty much ready for the market and starting to sell. But those really early stages, more to have a passion to become entrepreneur. We will equip them and we will help them with the knowledge how to become entrepreneur together with our team, also Invento and the other ones. Because we figured it out, there's not a problem that researchers would not love to be entrepreneurs. They just don't know how, and we can help them to become entrepreneurs. But Vesna as such will pretty much help with money, being more hands-on than classical VCs. But then in next stages we are acting like classical VC.
Yeah, so we have time for one. Is this working? Let's see. It should start working. Yeah, so we have time for an honest confession. So I lied. There is no time for more questions. It's time to wrap this up. But I'm going to say one thing that I'm happy about. There are some guests from Chicago waiting to be on the stage or in front of the stage, and they look really nervous at the back. And the reason I'm happy about this is that they really care about this thing, this conference that we are organizing, and I want to thank them for that once again. Peter mentioned something about being hungry, so it's time to have lunch. But before we do that, we talked about a lot of zeros today, so I want to wrap this up by saying thanks a billion for being here.
Thank you all. Thanks to our dear guests. And just one small thing. Thanks. The pause will be till 2 p.m., so we have lunchtime. All the questions you haven't get the answers on, it's time for networking through the lunch, so it's best to maybe do that. And the answer on the question for this lady, Xenia, maybe you should also try on LinkedIn. All the associations have LinkedIn pages, so follow them and be updated. And of course, everything you put on LinkedIn today, don't forget to tag our organizers. Enjoy, and don't forget on the newspapers, free book, and everything else. See you back in 2 p.m.